Hi, welcome to video on visualization of communication concepts. So in this video we'll see standard amplitude modulation, extended variations, and then we'll also see the demodulation of standard AM signal using envelope detector. This is a standard AM expression, and we have realized this standard AM expression using LabVIEW, using the block diagrams as written over here. So let us try to observe the effect of many parameters which are like amplitude of the modulating signal, amplitude of the carrier signal, the frequency of modulating as well as the carrier signal, along with the modulation sensitivity of the modulator. This is the expression of SFT, and this is the expanded version of SFT, which has one component which corresponds to the carrier. You can see the carrier amplitude AC, and we have two sidebands which are located at FC minus FM and FC plus FM. Their amplitudes are mu AC by 2. Both of them have same amplitude. So if you change the value of Ka, which is nothing but the sensitivity factor of your modulator, if you change the value of Ka, which is represented here, and Ka into AM, the amplitude of the modulating signal, is again represented by mu. So as Ka changes, mu is directly proportional. As you can see here, the amplitude of sidebands will change. So that's why the amplitude of the sideband is changing over here, that is visible in the spectrum. In time domain, we can see there is a change in the modulation index. If I change the amplitude of the modulating signal, so it will again change the modulation index in time domain, and in the spectrum we can certainly see the sideband peak will going to change. So that is observation we can make in the spectrum. And if I change the AC, in time domain I can see entire amplitude of the modulated signal will change, and in spectrum, along with the carrier peak, the peak of your sideband will also change. So this is not only carrier peak, it also the sideband peak will also change. As you can see here, this is the amplitude of the carrier, this is the sideband. AC is there in all the three terms. Suppose I change the carrier frequency, if you can see this is the carrier frequency. So in time domain you can see a change in the carrier frequency, and in spectrum you can see the frequency of the carrier, and both sidebands will change. If I change the modulating frequency, envelope frequency in SFT will change. That is evident in your time domain. In frequency domain, you can see changing only the sideband frequencies. So no change in the carrier frequency. So these things we'll see it in LabVIEW simulation and try to understand the variations of many parameters. Now in LabVIEW, we will actually see the variations of different parameters which are there displayed in this front panel. So now this is the modulating signal, the carrier signal, and of course the Ka, the sensitivity parameter, and of course you have the spectral, which will give the time response, the frequency representation of this AM signal. If you can see now, this is Ka is given as 1, AM is 1, now the modulation index is 100%, and this is the frequency of the modulating signal. The carrier frequency is 10 kHz, but unfortunately since the scale is in auto scale, so of course we can certainly see a clear time response. In order to make it more clarity, so it's better to take out that auto scale in this. So let me take out this auto scale and take auto scale. Since the frequency is 1 kHz, if I want to see hardly 2 cycles, you can change this to, I will change this to hardly 2 milliseconds. So which will give me 2 e power minus 3 will give me 2 milliseconds. Now you can see you are saying hardly 2 cycles. If you want to see more cycles, you can make it 0.05, so that you can see at least 5 cycles. So this is, you have 5 cycles. And here also you are not seeing the sidebands properly in the carrier signal, so it's better you take out the auto scale of this also. So let me take out the auto scale. I know that since the carrier frequency is at 10 kHz, so sidebands will be there at 11 and 9 kHz. So let me change this to 15 kHz. Let me make it 15K, and then start frequency also I can make it something like 8K. This is 8 kHz. Now you can see since the carrier is at 10 kHz, you can see this is the 10 kHz representation, and this is the 11 kHz, this is at 9 kHz. So these are the two sidebands, and this is the carrier signal. As we have seen in this expression, if I see this, now this is the amplitude of the carrier signal, which is at 1. The sidebands are at mu AC by 2. So in this case, mu is K into AM, AC by 2. So since this is 1, 1, 1, so it's actually 1 by 2, which is 0.5. Now if I change the value of Ka, suppose if you just go back and try to see the variations of Ka now. So if I change this Ka to 0.5, let me make it 0.5, see now, and this has become 0.25. Now this is 0.5 divided by 2, which is 0.25. Of course, the modulation index, you can see it has become 50%. The modulation index is 50%, whereas the amplitude of the sideband is 0.25. If we make it 0.8, 0.8 corresponds to, so this is now 0.4, whereas the modulation index is, mu is actually Ka into AM, which is 80% modulation index. You can see that 80% modulation index, and of course the amplitude of the sidebands is, this is mu, which happens to be 0.8 into 1 by 2, which is 0.4. So this is what you have. So likewise, you can change this to, of course, the value of, even you can change the value of Ka to beyond 1, if you make it 1.2. You can see this corresponds to mu is equal to 1.2, which is, if you can see here, there is a over modulation, and you can see here this is again 0.6. So how you are getting 0.6 is, now it is 1.2 into 1 by 2, which happens to be 0.6. That's what is in here. This way we can able to see the changes in Ka on the spectrum plus the time response. Suppose if you see the, if you want to see the changes in AM, okay, how does that look into effect? So let me make this 0.5. Let me make this 0.5. Now the modulation index is 50%. Let me change this to 0.5. So now the modulation is becoming 0.25. And of course, you can see there is effectively similar type of change here. If I make this 2, now modulation index will become 1, which is 100% modulation. That's what is here. Now you can see it is 0.5. So this way we can see the effect of amplitude of the modulating signal on the spectrum, both in time response as well as the spectrum. Next you can see the effect of AC. Suppose if I change the AC to a magnitude of, you can see if I make it equal to 0.5, you can see this has changed. Okay, I mean this is 0.5, this has changed, so that's what is the effect of your AC is going to have an impact on both the spectrum. The entire peak to peak of the spectrum has changed, and the carrier peak along with the sideband peak. Okay, carrier peak is also 0.5, and sideband peak is actually AC mu by 2. So you know what is mu now. Mu is actually 2 into 0.5, which is 1. So 1, this is 0.5, it is 0.5 by 2. So that's why it is 0.25. So this way we can able to make this one and try to see now this is. So this is now 0.5 into 0.5 by 2, which is 0.125. So this is the value that you have. Now I can make this equal to 1, and this is, you can make it 1, it's 100% modulation. This is the value. Similarly, you can change the value of carrier frequency. Now you change the carrier frequency to their value. Now it is 10 kilohertz. Make it equal to 50 kilohertz. Now you can see you are getting a very thick carrier representation, so which is okay, evident in your time response. But in frequency response, it is not properly seen because this is 50 kilohertz since you have taken out the auto scale. So let me make this frequency to around 52 kilohertz. 50 plus 1 kilohertz happens to be the upper sideband. Let me make it 52K. This is there. Let me also change this to around 5K, 45K. Now you can see you can set 50 kilohertz, this is at 51, this is at 89 kilohertz. This way, of course, when you change it, this has become thick. I can change this to 45 also. Let me make it 45. You can see this has changed here. The lower sideband is below that. Let me change this to 41. You can see this is at 40. This is 45, 41. Sorry, 44. This is 46. So these are the sidebands. Similarly, I can change the frequency of the modulating signal. If I make it equal to 2 kilohertz, you can see now this is evident here. So as the frequency increases, and of course, since it is 2 kilohertz, the sidebands are also have changed. So now sideband T is at, of course, carrier is at 45 kilohertz. The upper sideband is 45 plus 2, which is 47. This is 45 minus 2, which is 43. If you make this equal to 10 kilohertz, you can see it is still, it's not properly visible. So you make sure that you see hardly one cycle. So let me make it 0.05. If you want to see only 2 cycles, because of 10 kilohertz corresponds to 0.1 millisecond, let me make it as 0.2 exponential to minus 3. So I am setting the time period as 0.2 millisecond. You are seeing hardly 2 cycles. So now since this is 10 kilohertz, you can increase the carrier frequency to a bit high frequency. Let me make it equal to maybe 95 kilohertz. You can see this is 95 kilohertz. You are not seeing the spectrum now. You change this to, let me change this to, okay, I have to make it at least 1.1 megahertz or e power 6. This is fine, and you can change this to a frequency which is, maybe let me make it, and it is now okay 85K. So this is 85K. Let me make this equal to 120K. This is 120. Let me make this equal to, this is 120K. Let me make this equal to 80K. Now you can see the carrier frequency is at 95 kilohertz, and this is 95 plus 10, which is 1005 megahertz. This is at 95 minus 10, it is 85 kilohertz. So this way you can able to modify it when you change the carrier frequencies. So this way we can able to see the variations of different parameters and try to see the variations both in the spectrum as well as the time response. Okay, in the next video we will see the demodulation of AM signal using envelope detector.